Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Knowledge Broker podcast. Are you ready for another episode?
I am. I'm here to talk.
Do you know which episode we're on now?
I think we're on 7.
Yes, 7 is my lucky number, so I have saved a very exciting topic, especially for me, for today.
Cool.
So today's topic is all about how much home do we really need? And the reason why I'm bringing it up and why it's so important to me is because I am a recent, university grad. I was living downtown in a very small apartment. And then I came home to my family home, and it's massive. Mm-hmm. And it occurred to me that I don't need this much space. And neither do my parents. So we were always in a discussion of we need to downsize or we need to find a smaller place, even though they're like, we've lived in this house forever and we're a 3-person family. Why is it now too big? So I want to talk about that and kind of get your opinion on that and see what you think of the current state of downsizers at any age.
Yeah. It's funny. We were talking about this yesterday about apartments down in Toronto and the size of these and the cost of space. And I think that the cost of space is starting to really impact how much space people need. If you think about it, you go to Toronto, it costs you a couple $1,000s for a 1-bedroom apartment. Before you know it, it's kind of like a couple $1,000 is a really high budget. So people realize that all they need is a 1-bedroom versus a 2-bedroom, where a 2-bedroom might cost you $3,000. Mm-hmm. So that whole idea of cost has really made a big difference on people's needs assessment. I think people sit there and they go, do I need that? There's a big difference between want and need. I think you were mentioning to me earlier that you said you grew up in a large house with ample space, and I think to myself, and I've been to your place, and it's kind of like, how many rooms get used on a daily basis?
Yeah, it's shocking how little. Like when you think about it, I know for me, I use my bathroom, the kitchen, the living room, and my bedroom.
Four rooms.
4 rooms.
4 rooms, and then if you lived in an apartment, we'll call it, you'd probably have the same 4 rooms. You'd have the kitchen, the living room, the bathroom, your bedroom.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, that's probably the same 4 bedrooms or 4 rooms for everybody.
Almost everybody, yeah.
So what I've noticed recently is that when I ask people what they want in a house, there are people that say that they want to have an extra guest space for when they have family over, and it's really important to them, and I get it. But the question is, how often does the family come over?
Yeah, so true.
And if it's only like once a year or maybe less, like a lot of people think, when my aunt came over, it was just, we felt tight and crammed. I think I want to get a bedroom when my aunt comes over next time. And I'm like, she visits once every 5 years.
Yeah, literally.
Like you got to figure out the couch option. It is what it is.
Yeah, get a pull-out couch.
Sure, and it's a lot cheaper to. I mean, like the hotel doesn't sound like an opportunity, but I mean, it seems like a lot cheaper than buying a bigger house.
Very true, especially if it's only for one night, maybe a year.
Sure, and I mean, like it's funny how everybody wants the comforts of home. I get it, but the olden days of like cramming people into smaller spaces is always fun because people always remember it more. But regardless, it's almost like people go out of their way to have the big spaces for the one day a year. We see huge dining rooms these days that hold 8 to 10 people at a dining room table, but they're never sat at. Everybody sits in the kitchen with 4 chairs.
Or they sit all over the living room or the basement or the backyard. They're not even at a table.
So I would say like the biggest part is like if you use these things daily, if not weekly or monthly, like if you do a big Sunday dinner every week and it's really important to you, then obviously you probably need the big dining room.
Yeah.
If you have, I mean, it's interesting with kids. Kids take up a lot of space, like toys and everything else. Or humans, they have their own space as well. So I do see people getting extra rooms for kids.
Which is shocking because for such a small person, they take up so much space.
Don't they?
So much real estate.
They take up it because it's extraordinary stuff that you would never have.
Yeah.
They bring in their own chairs.
Yeah, they have to have their own seating and their own tables and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Their own space at the table that has their own like setup with their own high chairs and everything else. So
crazy.
On the space thing, you and I both know that you can do it for less.
Totally.
And I mean, I'm a true believer that if you live small, you can live big. Meaning like live smaller so that you can go travel and do different things that maybe you can't do if you have this huge home that makes you, we'll call it house poor. And I mean, people that are house poor, like often they'll be in their backyard and they'll hang out in their own home. But then if you start to talk to them about whether they go on trips or vacations or if they go out for dinner, it's almost inexistent.
Yeah.
So I'd say if it's really important to you have your Sunday night dinner and not do those things, then obviously you can make that decision. But it comes back to like what's really important to you. And if big space is, then so be it.
Yeah, so like why do you think that there is always been an idea? Because I know it's switching, it's just changing a little bit, where millennials, and I mean, I'm not technically a millennial, but like pretty close, grow up with this idea that the epitome of all luxury is a mansion. It is a big, larger than life house, so many rooms. Why do you think that that's switching a little bit to not more realistic opportunities like with a smaller house or something like that, but just that just doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah. There's a couple things there. One is like maturity. There's no question in my mind that when we grow up on TV, we see great big houses. The TV shows are all houses. We see the magazines on people's counters. They're all houses. So, I mean, like there's that, which is the essence of dream. And we're also implanted with it. And then there's reality, which is the maturity side where people actually start to realize that that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, we starting to see not nearly as many large homes being built. Like the province here in Ontario, and especially the Toronto area, they're all about intensification. So not allowed having big sprawling lots. It's actually quite rare now to even get these approvals. Because people, I guess the municipalities and the province and the country, they want to see people intensify to leave the green space alone and then go up in condos. So the larger spaces are becoming rare. And I think people, they're starting to live. I mean, like look at our, look at IKEA. This place in the 50s never existed. People had big sprawling rooms, living rooms, dining rooms, huge kitchens. Big furniture, huge furniture.
Oh, huge, yeah.
Still to this day, my parents have big stuff too. And then IKEA came along and people realized that they can live small.
The minimalist lifestyle.
Sure. And then the living small became like, well, I guess if I only need that size of a desk and I don't need this big corner one with a hutch.
Yeah.
Well, I have so much more space for other things. So before you know it, they kind of led, but also saw, if you think about like Europe, which is where they're from, they live in small spaces. It's not like here. The houses here are monstrosities compared to the average house in Europe. That people, you still see washing machine combo with dryer, single units in the kitchens in most English kitchens.
Oh, I know. I have a ton of English friends, and every time when I went to England for the first time, I was shocked to see that they had a washer dryer in their kitchen.
Yeah. But to them, they're like, where's yours?
Well, yeah. They're like, you have a separate room for yours? I'm like, yeah, like what?
Yeah.
But then you think about it, you're like, it actually kind of makes sense. I mean, like you do spend most of your time in the kitchen. So like if you're in there, just throw a load in while you're doing it, right?
Yeah.
But
and the single, they have the one that's washed and dry.
Or they'll just hang dry their clothes.
Sure they do. Typically. We have so much space that it's become like it's not even necessarily a luxury. It's becoming a lot of people's need. Because they don't know how to live in smaller spaces.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, for me, coming from university, my mom even said, like, when I got back my first few months, like, moved out, I didn't leave my room. And it wasn't because I was being antisocial. It was just because I knew I didn't use any other room in the house.
That's what you're used to, too.
Exactly. Like, my bedroom at home was, like, almost, not twice the size, but, like, a room and a half of the room that I had living downtown.
Yeah.
So I thought here, I was like, oh my God, look at how much space I have now. I'm like, I'm rolling in this space. So I'm like, why would I leave it? But for my mom, who's, seen me for up to, I guess, 17 years before I moved out, she's like, this is so weird. Like you used to sprawl all your stuff all across the house and now you're isolating it to one space. And she's like, I'm not mad about the mess, but it's odd.
I think it's also like, if you think about it, I think a lot of people like their own space that's theirs. So I think if you think, how many spaces do you need that are yours?
Yeah.
I mean, like a kitchen, do you need your own kitchen? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I think it can be a very used shared space. I had a client looking at a house recently, and there was an extra kitchen in the basement called like a summer kitchen, which was an Italian thing. And it was one of these things where I don't know how often it would get used.
Yeah.
You almost felt bad that you even had it. Like you almost sat there and you're like,
really?
You almost felt like it was a waste of space, kind of, because I feel like some people nowadays, they don't need these huge finished basements. A lot of people just want to have the open space to store their Christmas decorations inside the house. So I mean, it comes back to like a needs and a wants. I guess our wants are probably endless.
Yeah, of course.
But if you can align your needs and wants, and hopefully reduce your needs a little bit, you'll find life is probably just as easy, less complicated because you have less space to clean. You
Definitely.
think about the sizes and the heating bills, the hydro bill, or sorry, heating, gas. You think about even like people if they have more TVs in their house, if you have more couches, if you have more everything.
Yeah.
It's almost like it doesn't stop. Bigger house, bigger problems.
Yeah, and it's funny because like a few of the reasons why people might buy a bigger house is this idea of luxury. They get a promotion at work and they're like, let's buy a bigger house.
Sure.
It's like it's not even the location, because I find the bigger houses are in the most like remote locations.
Sure.
Or they want to just impress others. Like it's like to me it's there's I feel like the psychology of buying a bigger house these days is a lot more fascinating. Like I don't think it's just, oh, I want a big house. I think it is mostly to do with the idea of impressing your friends, impressing your family.
If you don't use it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you use it and you entertain daily or weekly or nightly or whatever it is, or if the huge parties are really big to you, then by all means. And if you can afford it and you want it, all to it.
Yeah. But I think the reverse of it is millennials especially, and again, people like around millennial age, are finding that I have a feeling, and I don't have any science to back this up, but are feeling like a lot of people feel lonely a lot of the time. They feel distant from their family. And I do have a feeling that, and I've probably read this somewhere, that people who live in bigger houses, families that live in bigger houses, are often less close to those that live in smaller houses and smaller spaces.
Fact. It's in my experience, that's all people talk about.
Exactly. So for me, I have some friends who live in these massive houses, and not saying that they're distant from their families, but I find that my age group especially is discovering that loneliness is a real thing. Yep. And if you live in these massive houses where you don't always interact with your family, or you could go like a few hours without seeing someone in your family, that loneliness becomes really real. And I have a feeling that a lot of millennial peoples that are realizing that more space equals more loneliness, less human connection, and probably because these bigger houses are going up in more, I didn't mean rural, but like, they're kind of like further out, like King City, for example.
And we're isolated with our phones nowadays.
Exactly. So someone doesn't even need to leave their bedroom.
Yeah.
So
no, not at all.
It's kind of, it's showing more to me. I mean, I look at some of my friends and even their moms who are stay-at-home moms who live in these big houses. They're so lonely because they they have space. All they do is clean because all they have is like they clean one side of the house and then they're like, oh my gosh, the next side of the house is dirty, and then they do that, and then by the time they finish that, and like, what kind of life is that?
This could be like a conversation that you and I could probably talk for hours on. It's kind of neat, but it's scary because you think about, if you just brought up a good thing about loneliness. Imagine you're lonely in a huge house. And you picture a castle or something, right? But if you think about it, you know what you're going to do? You're going to go out there and you're going to sign up for memberships everywhere. So it's almost like if you have these huge houses where like your kids you can't even call their name and get them to hear you.
Yeah, you have to
Sure. And you think about the distance that's created there to the point that they probably text.
Yeah, saying dinner's ready.
Sure. And it's kind of like you think about closeness of families and how well they know each other and they're around each other. You can see how when they go on vacations, they blow up because they're not used to that distance.
Totally.
Or that tightness.
Yeah. The last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up is something that I saw in the Wall Street Journal. So it is going back to this idea of like the baby boomer generation poured millions into these big spacious houses so that they could live out their golden years in these homes. But now they're realizing that these large homes do not fit their lifestyles anymore because maybe stairs, maybe space, cleaning, electricity, whatever. They just can't afford them anymore. But the problem is that the younger people can't afford to buy them.
Oh, yeah. The disconnect, eh?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny seeing this not overlap that these baby boomers thought. Like they thought, oh my God, like my grandkids will want to live in this house, like all these young people, but young people can't afford these houses.
Yeah, we're seeing like there's a few things at play there. I do see more families moving in together.
Yeah.
I'll see grandma, grandpa, or both moving in with their kids, occupying in-law suites or even just a bedroom in the house, and they share the same kitchen. They don't need their own kitchen.
Yeah.
We see that happening a lot. We also see a lot of people nowadays, in order to buy their houses, parents are going into their estates, we'll call it. They're not passed away yet by any means, but they're going into their children would inherit, and they're giving it to them earlier. They're giving it to them earlier because they know that their children might not be able to get that house.
Yes.
So some of them have done refinances on their own home to give children money. They're also perhaps they're finding ways to make everything work for a family. So meaning if they sell the big huge house, they're finding a way to downsize, put themselves in a condo so that they can free up some cash to give to their kids to buy their house. So it becomes a family thing. It's not just like a one person problem. Before you know it, you sit down as one big happy family that you were before you even had your own kids, and then you sit down with them and you're like, okay, let's figure out a group decision.
Yeah. And
that's happening more and more. We're also seeing, if you think about in the city, the metropolis kind of things, you'll see like an old 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 square foot house. That now is being split into 3 units. So you'll see that as in the rural markets as we get out. When I say rural, I mean like outside of the GTA. We're starting to see 4,000 or 5,000 square foot houses. People are splitting them. They might put multi-generation in there for one family. They might even rent out a third or 2/3 to get an income for their pension.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like there's solutions, but at the same time, it comes back to the same problem, the affordability.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, on that note, that is the end of episode 7 of the mini series. Only one left. Ooh. So tune in next week to see the final episode. Anyway, have a great week.
See you guys. Thank you very much for stopping by our channel. If you have any questions or if you're looking to buy or sell, go to our website and contact us today. Knowledge is power and creates experts in understanding. If you want power, hit thumbs up on this video and subscribe to our channel so you can get weekly videos from me, your knowledge.